Hello everyone, thanks for dropping by. In case you didn't already know, that's the last of the W16 engines in the last version of a Bugatti. That's a roadster. If I had that kind of money, I wouldn't buy one of those, as it doesn't come with a roof, so when it rains, you and the expensive upholstery in the cockpit gets wet. If it's too hot, you'll get sunburnt and sunstroke on the top of your head. I'd prefer a Chiron with a roof on, but there's never gonna be another Chiron, so the next one will be like a hybrid electric version. Sad, but that's the way things go. Anyway, enough about that. As you know, women have been laid off in the tech industry right across the Western world and in the North America and Canada. This is also happening in the C-suite and executive, but they're not being laid off, they're quitting themselves, because looking around I found this. As you can see, it's the World Economic Forum, i.e. that talking shop that thinks that they control the planet, led by Klaus. You will eat the bugs and own nothing and be happy. As you can see, this was done on November the 28th in 2022. What is the great breakup? Why so many women leaders are quitting? That, before I go down, as you can see, that's the kind of work environment women want to be in. Nice and comfortable offices. It could be bucketing it down outside, but they've got a nice cushy job where they don't have to do much, and they just look at a screen and they have ability to chat with their fellow workmates and gossip. It's just a complaining one about how women are quitting their jobs. As it says, unprecedented numbers of women leaders in America are quitting their jobs according to a new survey by McKinsey. 1 in 4 senior executive level leaders is a woman, and just 1 in 20 is a lady of color. And then it goes down, it goes on the graph. What the graph doesn't seem to understand is the demographics. There's only about 19% of the American population are black, so proportionally this is an accurate graph and representation of the American demographics in the workforce, who are women and women of color. But if you drop down, these two areas are interesting. Women leaders are overlooked and underappreciated compared to their male peers. Female leaders put more effort into staff well-being and diversity, inclusion and equity, i.e. DEI, i.e. the company killer. However, the report says that it's not formally rewarded by most employees. The report says spending time and energy on work that isn't appreciated also means that 43% of women leaders are burnt out compared to 31% of men at their level. Well, corporate level jobs are tough. You don't get appreciated. You're a cog in a great big money making machine called the name of whatever it is, the company that you work for. And it drops down. Women want a different work culture. Female leaders are significantly more likely than male ones to quit their job because they want more flexibility. That could be if children come along, they want to spend time with their children. But then again, if they're climbing the corporate ladder, they got no time for dating. They are also keener to work for companies that are more committed to well-being and DEI, the company killer. Young female workers desire these things even more. In other words, young female workers want more DEI in the company. The report says companies don't take action may struggle to recruit and retrain the next generation of women leaders. Well, according to some of the reports, corporations across America are employing less women into the workforce because they know that a woman could go into the office, she only stays for a bit, she creates a bit of trouble, complains to HR, also populated by women, and they get a guy that works in the office fired. So the companies have decided we're not going to take on women anymore. And then it says reasons women leaders switched jobs in the past 2 years. So that could be a 2-year, they only spent in the company for 2 years. And then flexible working matters more to women. Report says since the pandemic, vast majority of employees in the US now want work for companies that offer remote or hybrid work opportunities. I have a cousin. She works in Cyprus. She does remote work for a company, so she might be laid off. I don't know yet. And my nephew, Paul, he also works from home, but he works in the banking sector. And that is particularly important to women. Women who get to choose which assignment they prefer are happier in their jobs, less burnt out and most likely to want to leave their companies. But women who work remotely at least some of the time say they experience higher levels of psychological safety and fewer microaggressions. Well, of course, they're not in the office. The last factor is apparently women of colour, women with disabilities, and the alphabet women. And then women from diverse barriers face even bigger barriers. And then it goes on about that, and the gender gap remains wide. And then the global top 10, diversity, Iceland being the top one, but the women in Iceland for a while ago went on strike for a little bit, and the men in Iceland barely noticed that they weren't in the workforce, so you can take that with a pinch of salt. And then we have Finland, Norway, New Zealand, and surprise, surprise, Sweden, and then an African country, Rwanda, Nicaragua, Latin America, Namibia, Ireland, and Germany at the bottom. Nowhere does it say America. And then that's the article. But anyway, there's a great breakup. So many women are quitting, but a lot of women are being laid off. In Europe, I found this. Sweeping tech layoffs, women are more affected than men. Data shows women being disproportionately affected by layoffs, further reducing female representation in the tech industry. Well, I've commented before, the tech sector is more attractive to guys than women, because guys are naturally that way inclined, because the brain is wired differently to women. And it says the tech company layoffs hit Europe workers in 2022. The new data shows these concerns could be valid. Women make up a third of European tech workers, but they represent 41% of layoffs, according to an analysis of 233 laid-off employees. And women go first. One of the reasons this might be the case that women are highly represented in roles in marketing, which can be replaced by AI, public relations, diversity and inclusion, the company killer, and human resources, which they have an overpopulated percentage in that, often among the first to be cut when a business is conducting layoffs, as they are not business critical. In other words, the company has been trimming all the deadwood, pruning back. Do we need this department? No, we'll get rid of it. Barlow adds that part-time roles, which are often accompanied by women with children, parents and young professionals, have been the first to go in Europe sweeping tech layoffs. And then female founders and investors have already expressed concern that diversity is bound to slip during an economic downturn, or the interest rates are going up, money gets tight, and then they have to start cutting things to balance the books, with investors reinvesting back to network investments, which often include women and people of colour. And then it goes more yada yada about it. And if you click on I think it's that one. You get this. This is Fast Company, how recent tech layoffs can disproportionately affect women and people of colour. And then it goes down. In recent years, tech companies have invested billions in beefing up DEI, claiming that they wanted to address long-standing demographic inequalities. But then again, once I said, African Americans only comprise about 19% of the American population, which is still vastly majority is Caucasian, i.e. white. But in tens of thousands of tech layoffs have been laid off over the past several months, research suggests that women and people of colour have been disproportionately affected. According to layoffs, these tech industry cuts, an estimated 45% who lost their jobs in a recent wave of layoffs were women. All these strong independent women, they've been laid off. They're facing the same thing as guys. It's called equality. And then, where is it? About Twitter. Here we go. A recent lawsuit launched by former employees accuses Twitter of disproportionately targeting female staff, claiming the company cut 57% of women in its workforce compared to just 47% of men. Now, you've all seen that video on YouTube about what a woman does at Twitter before Musk took it over, and it was a case of long lunches, long periods where she wasn't doing any work, and just 2 periods of work where she only did a few meetings and a bit of work. That's why she and all the other 57% of women got laid off, i.e. the deadwood. Unwanted employment. The company was top heavy with workers, so they just got rid of them. I should say Musk just got rid of them. Female employees disproportionately in work vulnerable departments. Once again, desperate says lead the sales, marketing, other customer-facing roles or accounts for roughly the cuts. Why did I do that? And HR the most disproportionately affected, with many cutting their talent teams in half. HR recruiting and customer-facing roles tend to comprise more women than other departments. True, like engineering, that was mostly men. The engineering department makes up a very low percentage of these layoffs, especially relative to their size. In other words, you need more guy engineers than you need women in HR recruiting and customer-facing roles, because AI is going to take more of these. AI is going to be doing more of these jobs soon, so that they don't need the people. But anyway, it goes down, more yada yada about it, and that's that article. Now, it's not just tech companies laying people off. It's I found this, accountancy firms. As you can see, it's the Wall Street Journal. This was done on December 15th last year, not so long ago. Ernst & Young senior partners during a call with some of the accounting firm's U.S. partners and staff delivered a sober message usually reserved for clients. It's time to cut costs. And at the top, higher interest rates and weaker economic conditions. In other words, the time of the cheap loans with virtually no interest has finished. Interest rates are creeping up, money's getting tight, and combined with the weaker economic conditions means they're overstaffed, so they've got to start cutting back. It's been a difficult week, and we took needed action to address resource challenges in our business, where growth has notably slowed and where we have excess capacity. In other words, they recruited too many people. And then it goes down. Where's the cash cow? Where does it say? The face repeated concerns. Sorry about this, people. There we go. As the economy recovered, interest rates began to rise. However, some clients put less priority on spending on business transformation projects, i.e. DEI, he said, and more companies are pulling back spending on third-party advisory services, even when they confronted weakening economic conditions and geopolitical uncertainty. A sharp drop in volume and sluggish private sector equity transactions, in other words, money's drying up, are also hurting what was a profitable and reliable business for EY. Executives have said in other webcasts earlier. EY don't respond to a request for comment. Of course not. They don't want the bad publicity. Now, you can see, there's lots of cutting back. A large proportion of these cutbacks are women, and the company, these articles don't like the fact that women are being laid off and men are not. But if you are getting laid off, I've been laid off a few times myself, as if I found this for a few signs, 13 signs you may be facing a layoff. If you drop down, employees don't leave and get replaced. I've seen that. Hiring and spending freezes. That means the budget is frozen and no more's coming in. I used to work for Amazon at Man2 in just outside Warrington. Colin, a friend of mine that I told you in the last video, he's told me all the temps have been laid off, and it's pretty quiet in the FC. So you can see that article there. New projects may be put off for later. Budget shrinking for projects that aren't needed and do not directly translate into revenue. You could say that is also DEI. A company merger acquisition is on the way. Two companies of combined strength and profitability may also lead to removing employees with duplicate skill sets. You've seen that. Whoops. You've seen that with Disney. They merging the graphics departments. Executives are exiting the company. They seen what's happening and they taking the money, payoffs, and running. There have been previous layoffs. Well, there's been a few of that right across America, and more are coming along. If a company is laying off employees with some regulate, it may things aren't financially stable in the long term. The bank in California, they started laying up people off en masse. Company restructuring. At times companies recognize themselves, in other cases, as a way for a company to look ahead and see if they can shed any unnecessary job roles, i.e. human resources, things that you can replace with AI, DEI roles, diversity, inclusion and equity. Reduce attention to research and development. Decreases in company performance. That's Disney to a T. All these movies that keep bombing. Outsourcing labour. There may be an effort to cut costs rather than focus on local employees. Restructuring and reorganising other ways for employers to shed their in-house roles. A WARN Act is circulated. That be an American thing. I don't know about that. Sure sign that layoffs are coming. Employers do not receive 60-day written notice. An emergency meeting has been scheduled. That's if you see managers suddenly vanish in a company and then they come back, you'll know that the big decisions have been made and they're going to start implementing cutbacks. That's one of the signs that I've noticed in companies that I've worked for. Bringing in outside consultants, that means they don't need some departments. And then how do you know if your job's in jeopardy? Your manager suddenly becomes very involved, and then your workload shrinks. You know that you're going to be laid off soon. You've been left out of meetings. That's if you work in an office. And then advice of whether in the layoffs. But guys are more savvy to things, what's going on. women to a degree are, but guys also, I've noticed, are more inclined to see what's going to happen, because guys are more observant than women in some cases, especially if you work in a warehouse or on the factory floor. But women are quitting work. These strong independent women are being laid off. Women of colour being laid off, and DEI being cut back, and even accountancy firms are being cut back. How will it affect guys in the long run? Guys are more adaptable than women, so these guys are going to survive, because guys can turn their hands at jobs that women can't do. But if you do get laid off, guys can adapt, but I'm afraid that women won't be able to adapt, because a woman is not really suited to a lot of the jobs that's in the economy. I think I'm on the 20-minute mark now, so I'll have to wrap it up, but I'll try and find some more how this laying off is affecting the economy via the commercial thing, which I started doing these videos for a long while ago, and how the MGTOW effect is affecting the country's economy. But for now, you know the routine, people. Like, dislike, comment, subscribe, etc. It's completely up to you. So until next Monday, that's it for this one. Bye bye.